I want to welcome everybody to this webinar on planning for high school. And as we mentioned, we have Lonnie, who is one of our senior counselors, is available in the Q&A box. So if you have questions that come up as I'm going through this information, do please feel free to reach out in the Q&A box, and somebody else probably has the same question, so it'll probably help everybody. So one of the things that we hear a lot is that a lot of people, they're enjoying the homeschooling journey, they're working with their kids, maybe even following their interests, a little bit more interest-led, and then all of a sudden high school looms. And for some reason, there's something like this big bad thing with high school, because all of a sudden parents start to feel like this is different because it counts. There are credits involved, there are transcripts involved. This is something that future employers may see or colleges may see. So many times parents, when they get close to those high school years, they feel a little bit intimidated. But what I'm here to talk about today is, and to give you information, is that you don't have to be intimidated. With Home Life Academy, we have the tools to make this an easy process for you. A lot of these are on our website, and I'm going to go through and talk a little bit about how to do high school planning, how to list courses, the options that are available. But then you also have counselors. We have a whole staff of homeschool counselors, high school counselors in particular, who are willing and available to talk to you. Because sometimes, even if we read it on a website, even if we've heard it in a webinar, there's just something unique about our situation with our student, our son or daughter, and we just want to talk that through with somebody. And that's fine too, because that's the other thing that we're pretty good at as counselors with HLAs, is listening to your questions and helping you brainstorm and helping you many times come up with what's the best answer for your family, for your child, for your homeschool journey. So as I mentioned, we're going to give you the tools. Just because you're beginning high school doesn't mean that you lose all your freedom. There are lots of ways to homeschool high school and still be outside of the box and still follow the interest and the leads of the students. If you want, you certainly can do more of a curriculum approach and use more textbooks and curriculum that you purchase and go through that with your student. But there is also the opportunity to still get creative in how your student learns. So you don't have to give up the fun. High school can be fun in a whole different way. There's a lot of freedom. Even when you're in high school or your student is high school, it is still your journey. It is still your family's journey. And you get to decide what journey is best for your family. I always say we have to raise the kids God gave us with the particular gifts and interests and passions that God gave them. And sometimes that can be a little bit frustrating, because you may have a child where you're like, oh, I really want him to do this. And then you get to know your child and you find out that is not who they are. So there are still the opportunities to kind of allow that child to be who God created them to be, even as you get a lot of the high school credits and requirements done. My background, I am the counseling team leader with Home Life Academy. I homeschooled my son from preschool through graduation. He graduated last May in the middle of a pandemic, and he is in his first year at college this year. Prior to that, I taught at a community college for about 17 years, so I've seen that side of things as well, and then have also worked in human resources management and consulting, where I hired and fired people through the years. So I kind of understand what it takes to be successful in that realm as well. So I've been all over the place, but I'm here today. So let's go ahead, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start sharing my screen here, and we're going to go to the website. So let me go ahead and get there. Over to the website. Are y'all seeing the website? Oh, I don't know how to see if you're nodding. You are screen sharing. So I think I'm screen sharing. All right. So this is our website. And this is where you're going to find a lot of information and tools that is going to help with high school, with the planning and what's required, etc. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to move to some different pages as we go through, but I want to show you how to get the information and show you what's out there so that you can also pull some of this and read it at your leisure as well. So what you'll see on our website is we have here at the top a few different categories, and I'm going to start by going to academics. I'm going to click on academics, and in the drop down menu I am going to go to high school. Okay, and there we go. So on this page we've got some information about how high school works with Home Life Academy. One thing I want to stress is that we have what we call one diploma with multiple paths to get there. So we don't have a different diploma for somebody who is college bound as opposed to somebody who is going to graduate high school and start their own job or go into the family business. So we have one diploma, but there's different paths to get there. The basic requirements for graduating, regardless of what path you're on, is all the same. You know, no matter which path you choose towards a high school diploma, you still need the 4 English, the 4 math, and the other requirements that we'll go through here in a couple of minutes. But our specific recommendations for which math, which English, which science is going to be different depending on the path that you're on. So we do really like if there's a place in Apple Core where you let us know what path your student is on. And that's not in stone or anything. It just helps us have that information, the counselor, so that we can give you the most relevant advice and information. And you can change it at any time. It's just a communication tool between the counselor and the parent. So we as counselors, our goal at Home Life Academy is to come along beside you as you educate your child, to help make that easy for you and to help you reach your goals as a homeschool parent. But really in high school, we kind of start transitioning from our goals to what is the goal of my high school student? What do they want to do with their life? What are their plans after high school? And so we kind of have to start thinking and asking those questions. And I always think this is a really good time to include the student when you're making these decisions. I think you get a lot more buy-in with your high school student if you include them in some of the decisions, like what curriculum should we use, or do you prefer to read these books or those books? And the more input and the more they're involved, what I usually see is they have more buy-in and they're more willing to dig in since they were part of the process of picking the resources or the curriculum for what you're going to do. All right, so one diploma, many paths, kind of come down through here. We've got some different information. Did you see Bilbo Baggins with Home Life Academy? Pretty cool. But so what I want to show you then, or move to here, is the high school planning. All right. So if you click on high school planning, we're going to go to another page that has a little bit more information about the different options that we have. There is also some places you can click here for career assessment. We have Cooter and some other ones that can be helpful if your child just doesn't know what they want to do yet. Sometimes those get them thinking. So, you know, we do have some of those links to those available on our website. HLA is flexible. We believe ultimately that you, the parent, have your child's best interests at heart. You know your child the best, and you probably love your child more than anybody else. So we believe, or we trust, that you as the parent are going to do what is best for your student. And again, we're here to kind of help you make that happen. We do have some students who graduate in 3 years in high school. If you're just starting out high school in 9th grade, you know, you don't have to decide at that time. It is not that difficult to get all the credits that you need for graduation in 3 years if that is what you want to do. You can look at the details here. They need to be at least 16 when they graduate. some people like to take advantage of that. If you're in a state that has a dual enrollment grant where students can take dual enrollment courses for free, they may not want to graduate early. They may want to use that last or that fourth year to take mostly dual enrollment courses. We also have students who stay with us and do a 5-year high school plan. And this can be for many reasons. It can be maybe they skipped a grade early on, maybe they started early, maybe they just need a little bit more time to grow up, and that is a fine option as well. So then we have a list of our course guides and electives. So let me pull this up for you. And kind of move on down here. So this is just an overview, and then we're going to come back and get more specific. So for example, we have 4 English credits that are required. You can see we typically recommend that college-bound students, call it English 9, English 10, English 11. It can also include dual enrollment college courses you can get credit for. A lot of colleges like to see students have some American Lit, Brit Lit, World Lit. And then it has other options that students may use for English if they're not college bound. So again, you still need 4, but what you pick and choose to do is going to depend on your students' goals. You can use these years to actually prepare them to, to kind of reach their specific or be ready for what they're looking to do when they graduate high school. Again, we've got the math. The college bound is usually Algebra 1 and above. If you're not college bound, you can earn credit for pre-algebra in high school and other maths. It can be business math, accounting. You can do a modified math if that's difficult for a student. So in this section of the website is a list of some options for course titles that you can use for the different courses. The left side, the blue side, is typically what we recommend you pick from if your student is going directly from high school into a 4-year college. If they're not, you have really what I say is if they're not going directly into 4-year college, you really have a lot more flexibility because if they're going to go to a 4-year college, you still kind of have to play that game of, I have to jump through certain hoops, at least as far as what you cover. How you cover it can be totally up to you, and that's where the flexibility comes in. But certainly if they're not going to college, you can really, tailor it to where they're going in life and, maybe an agri-science, a horticulture, etc. You can make it a little bit different there. So this list on this page just kind of has a variety of recommendations or things that you may want to consider for the various categories. So when you have high school requirements, we have categories. There's the English category, math, natural physical science, social studies, physical education. There's a health and wellness, and then a personal finance, and then there are 6 elective credits that you need to have. As you look through here, you can use a curriculum, like I said, but you don't have to. If you use a curriculum, usually completing the curriculum, if it's a full credit Algebra 1 course and you finish the Algebra 1 course, that's a full credit. If you're doing something that doesn't involve a specific curriculum, you can determine credit based on hours. So roughly 150 hours is 1 credit. Roughly 75 hours is a 0.5 credit. So you have flexibility there as well. All right. So I'm going to go ahead now, and you can see up here we have some of the different paths that we have available. A College 4, a College 2 TM, the Life Choice, a modified path. If you're in a different state, for example, Florida, we do have a planning sheet specific to Florida so that you'd be eligible for some of the scholarships that they have down there. So you'll want to look at that as well. Students who are enrolled with Home Life Academy, in order to graduate and get a diploma, you follow our kind of requirements for credits. So you don't have to worry if you're in a state where we provide legal coverage like Tennessee, you don't have to be concerned about, well, what does the state of Tennessee require someone have before they graduate? because if you're with Home Life Academy, we trump that. Okay, so it's our height graduation requirements that you have to be mindful of, not theirs. Okay, let's look then. If you're sports oriented, so if a child is going to play NCAA athletics in college, you may want to follow the planning sheet specific to that. It's real similar to the College 4, but NCAA just has a few more little things that they kind of look at. And we actually have a counselor who specifically works with students who are NCAA sports bound in college. The College 4, those students who are wanting to attend a four-year university directly out of high school. The College 2TM is students who are wanting to attend a two-year college, trade school, or enlist in the military. Life Choice is students who want to graduate with a career or technical career plan, and they're not planning to go to any higher level education. Again, this may be going into the family business. Sometimes it's going on the mission field. Sometimes these are students or entrepreneurs. And then we also have, if students are, maybe they struggle in some areas, or maybe they struggle in several areas. So we do have a modified path where they're still getting for English, but maybe the English is modified. Maybe it doesn't have as much reading, or the parents working with them a little bit closer on that. And then for those students who are just need to meet the attendance requirements so that there's no truancy issues, we do have a certificate of completion as well. All right. So at this point, let's go ahead and move over and look at a couple of the planning sheets specific to these areas. So I pulled up two. As you see, we have several that you can choose from. Just for purposes of today's presentation, I'm going to pull up the College 4 path and the Life Choice path so that you can kind of compare and see the differences between those two. So again, high school, we're preparing our student for what comes next, okay? So the College 4 path, this is the planning sheet. This is available on our website, and I do encourage that you go on there and that you print this out, you know, whichever planning sheet that you're gonna go, whichever one fits the goals of your student, and go ahead and kind of make a tentative plan for the whole 4 years of what classes they might do, and kind of what you think would be a good preparation for them. I always say do it in pencil because lots of things change. One of the things that we see a lot is when a student comes in as a freshman, 4 years, I mean, in our life as adults, sometimes that doesn't seem, I mean, it goes by fast. That doesn't seem like a whole lot. But that teenage student changes a whole lot in those 4 years. There's a big difference between a 14-year-old and the 18-year-old young man or woman, or 19-year-old young man or woman that is getting ready to graduate high school. Many times I've talked to parents who, when their student started as a freshman in high school, they were sure they were going to do this path, whether it's sports or NCAA, or they're definitely not going to college or whatever. And then I hear back from them later and they're like, you know what? They've changed, you know, now they're interested in pursuing some of these other options. So you want to write it in pencil, okay? You want to be flexible, which is a lot of reasons why we homeschool, because we do get the flexibility to respond to our student where they are. So just don't be surprised if you see some of those changes in their interests and what they're looking for as they go through high school. Also, don't be surprised if their learning styles change too, because sometimes that happens. In addition, sometimes students who've struggled for years with a concept, it's like that part of their brain, the prefrontal cortex, matures, and all of a sudden it just clicks. I had one student that I worked with who every year they went over the nouns and verbs and adjectives and added all of the parts of speech every day of his life, I think, since elementary up through high school, and he never really got it. And then he talks about how just one day when he was in high school, kind of getting towards the junior year, it just clicked. And it just, all of a sudden, it made complete sense to him. So sometimes when we think a child is maybe like they struggle with this or they're behind with this, really sometimes it's just a brain development issue, and they will get there. They just don't get there, you know, when not everybody gets there at the same time. And so that is very common. I also caution sometimes for math. Sometimes we have students who are very, very ahead in math, but as you move higher into math, it gets more abstract. And some kids, the brain just hasn't developed to the point to be able to understand those very abstract concepts in math. So sometimes a student will be on this trajectory for math, but at a certain level, it's going to level off. Sometimes it even dips down a little bit and then comes back up. So it's not a straight line when we're talking about education and learning. So this is one of the sheets, as I mentioned, that you can use for those who are College 4, which is the first sheet that I have up. This is what is typically expected at four-year universities. I will say that sometimes some are a little bit different than others. For example, some do require, or a lot do require the 4 or want to see the 4 math credits, but there's some that really only want 3. Now you still have to have 4 to graduate with Home Life Academy, but just, you know, that might give you a little bit more flexibility for that 4th one. Most colleges will have on their website what they like to see in high school. So for example, when my son was a freshman or sophomore, you know, he had these ideas about what colleges he might want to go to. So I looked on their website and looked at, you know, what did they want to see from high school students who are applying for admissions. Again, pretty much it fits this, you know, but sometimes there are little variations. So for example, there were some schools where they said, you know, we want our students, high school students, to have 2 years of a foreign language, but we prefer 3. So if I wanted him to be very competitive for trying to get into that college, I was going to make sure that he had 3, not just the 2. So just something to kind of look at. Some colleges are going to be very much more focused on your ACT scores and your GPA, and then some are really going to dig in. The more competitive and elite colleges are going to look closer at the specific courses that you have taken. So I do encourage you to check with colleges. Probably not as big deal during the freshman and sophomore year, because you know, usually those are, everybody's getting their requirements in, but definitely when you get towards the junior and senior year, start looking, you know, to see if there's anything that you need to fill in there. The other thing is during the freshman, the 9th and 10th grade, particularly 9th, we do recommend that you go heavier on credits. So for example, and I say this is our general guidelines. We are flexible and we will work with you. So if there is something, a different goal or plan that your child has, they may take more credits, but we typically recommend 8 to 9 credits in an academic year. Okay, not going more than that. That's kind of the max. But like I said, sometimes if you know a student who's doing a lot of dance or maybe sports, they may have more than that, and that's okay. We just, you know, we like to just to touch base because you want to make it look reasonable. You don't want to make it look like how on earth did they ever do all that. So 8 to 9 credits in an academic year, but there are exceptions to that. And one of the reasons you want to probably go high freshman year, if you feel like your student is able, is because things start to get more complicated the older that they get. By the time they're a junior or a senior, they may have a car, they may be having a job, their interests get a little bit more divided. So it's kind of good to go heavy at the beginning so that junior, senior year, you may have some flexibility if they want to do a dual enrollment course at a local college, or if they have a job or extra time to apply for colleges, if that's their goal. If they're not going to college, maybe some more time for internships and networking and what they're wanting to do after college. But, you know, just when they start getting older, cars, girls, boys, dating, life, jobs, sometimes there's more coming at them. So you might want to go a little bit lighter as you get to those areas. Over here, this is the life choice planning sheet. And again, you can see the same credits. We have 4 English, 4 math, etc. But what is different is going to be the recommendations that we see for each of those. So again, same number of credits, but the specific recommendations on how to earn those credits is different. So let me back up for a second now and talk about really what is a high school credit, okay? I mentioned earlier, if you complete an entire curriculum, and it's a full, full year, full credit curriculum, maybe your English is usually a full curriculum, that's 1 credit for finishing that out. If you don't use the traditional curriculum, you usually base it on hours, okay? So again, about 150 hours would be 1 credit. For most of these, if you do something all year, like if you work on English all year, in high school, English typically includes some sort of reading, some sort of literature, and some sort of writing or composition. You would give like a half a credit for the fall, 0.5 for the fall, and then a half a credit for the spring semester, 0.5 for the spring semester. So it averages to, or not at average, it adds up to a full credit. It should never be more than a 1 credit for course title is our recommendation. So kind of be mindful of that. Some people, and I'm seeing this a little bit more with the public schools, they're using block scheduling. So they take 3 or 4 classes in the fall and a different 3 or 4 in the spring, and they complete the entire English, in the fall. So they get the 1 credit of English in the fall, and then maybe in the spring they move to social studies and they earn the complete social studies credit there. All right. Let me see. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to jump back over, and we're going to go through these category by category and just kind of be a little bit clear on how this works. So English, as I mentioned, probably call it, or you can English 9, or you can call it English 9 Lit Comp. If they're going to college, they are expecting literature and some sort of composition or writing every year. So you wouldn't want to double up and do like 2 English their freshman year and then none their senior year. We do recommend, and most colleges are going to expect 1 English every year. What you can do is some colleges like to see that the student has been exposed to American literature, Brit Lit, World Lit. Some people will specialize in one of those each year. Some people just do an integrated approach, and that's fine. But just know that they're kind of expected to be aware of those as you go. So what we're going to look for in Apple Core is that you have literature, okay? And maybe you're using a literature curriculum. If that's the case, you list the curriculum. Maybe you're not using a curriculum. And if that's the case, you would just list some of the books, the literature that you're having your student read, and then maybe write that they're doing either research papers or composition. You can get curriculum that includes all of this, the literature and the composition, or you can get something that just focuses on the literature and something else that just focuses on the composition. And you can also, once again, create your own or use co-ops and tutorials and that type of stuff, etc. So for example, at least 1 year, maybe 2 I did for my son, I came up with a list of books that I had always wanted him to read, or maybe were on a list of books that all high school students should read. And I said, here, let's pick out some of these that look interesting to you. So he had some buy-in. He reads those. Most of them were classics. So I found free resources online. Y'all know how, like, when you're in school, when you're a student, Cliff Notes is bad. That's cheating. It's not cheating if you're the teacher. And so because I was never able to keep up and read everything he read, I could use the Cliff Notes, and it had in there sample questions, discussion questions, sample essay topics, etc. So I could converse with him about what he was reading, and that was free online, a lot of the Cliff Note materials. There's one called Pink Monkey that's really good too, and has a lot of free ones online. So, you can be as in the box as you want, or you can be outside of the box and kind of think, what do we want to read? And let's discuss it. If you have a student who is a reluctant reader, you definitely want to pull them into the process and try to pick books that they're interested in, or that revolve around topics that they're interested in. It doesn't have to be a certain list of books. You know, I think most of us, even as adults, you know, I read a lot for pleasure, but there's just some books I can't get into, you know, and every now and then I'll say, just take it back to the library. I can't, just not doing it for me. And so I always gave my son like a pass, where every year he had an opportunity to have a pass once. And on one book he could say, just not the one that I'm interested in. So, but you can pick books that fit what your student is interested in, if it's nature or travel, etc. Now, I do suggest that you always make sure that the student is, what would you call it? Has some basic literary knowledge, so that they, if somebody makes a reference, for example, to Romeo and Juliet, even if they've never like really read Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, maybe watch a movie about some of those classics so that they understand the reference. Oh, Romeo and Juliet, everybody dies, you know, they love each other and then everybody dies, type of thing, where they at least will get the cultural references. And there's some really cool curriculum out there too, learning literature through movies, where for kids who really are struggling to kind of to enjoy the reading, that might be something that you want to pull in a little bit, or maybe do that, like read the book and then we watch the movie, something like that, to make it interesting for them. The other thing that you might want to keep in mind with the writing portion, and kind of fitting again the students' goals in life, is you know, writing a business plan. That's writing, you know, that could fit under the English category. Songwriting, that's poetry, that's writing. If you have maybe your student write a blog that you review or look at as a parent, that's writing. Another thing that I like to recommend a lot too for students who, you know, they're interested in writing but kind of a little outside the box, is have them like seek out writing contests for essays or something like that. And that can be part of their high school English, is writing those essays. We use the title typically, although we do have flexibility, but usually one credit is going to include the writing and the reading, or the literature and the composition. Some students need a separate grammar plan or vocab. Some students, you get that by reading and writing anyway, so you don't necessarily have to have a separate curriculum for those. So now would be a good time if you have any questions specific to English. That's something you might want to throw in now before we move on to the next category. All right, the next category we're going to talk about is math. All right, so if your student is college bound, a lot of colleges are going to want to see, or competitive programs are going to want to see, 4 math credits, Algebra 1 and higher. So usually at least Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, and then maybe the pre-calc trig. Sometimes people will do statistics for the 4th math. Sometimes students will dual enroll college algebra. So, you know, you can get that as well. In general, geometry should not be taken before Algebra 1. This is something that I see sometimes where I think, you know, maybe not everybody is, if you haven't done this in a long time, you forget that there's an order to these classes. For example, you're not going to want to list pre-calc before the student has ever done Algebra 1. Okay, there is a sequence to math. Most math curriculum is going to tell you what that sequence is. So the beginning is usually Algebra 1. Algebra 2 and geometry, those sometimes get flopped or flip-flopped depending on the specific curriculum that you're going to use, and then the higher ones, but there is a specific sequence. Another thing that I've seen more in recent years is the use of integrated math. Some of the, I've started seeing this with some of the private schools that we get transcripts from when people transfer to HLA, that they're using a more integrated approach to math and science, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. And I'm also starting, I think you see it a little bit too in the European countries, where instead of a whole year just of Algebra 1, they call it Integrated Math 1, or Integrated Math 1, and it will cover a lot of algebra, but it's going to blend in some geometry and maybe even some trig. And then you do Algebra 2, and it's going to blend in some more of the Algebra 1, but then some of the Algebra 2 and maybe the rest of geometry. So even though it's using the integrated math titles, really by the end of the 4 years, the student will have all of these traditional subjects. So don't be afraid of that if that's something that appeals to you or you want to look into more. Now, if the student is not going to college, you have a lot more freedom with the math. Even if they're going to a community colleges are typically open access. You may have to take a test that determines what level of math you take at the college, but they're not going to typically say, no, you're not admitted. So sometimes if your student struggles in math, maybe you give them a pre-algebra credit in 9th grade, and then maybe you do the Algebra 1 in 10th, maybe you do a geometry. Maybe instead of Algebra 2, then you do something else, a statistics. Or maybe you want to completely do it differently, and you're going to take some accounting, and you're going to take consumer math and business math. There is even math curriculum out there for specific technology jobs. So maybe you use a technology math. So there is, again, the freedom and the flexibility to look at what your student's goals are in life and pick out the courses that fit that. Math is one of those subjects. I think I hear more from parents about the struggles with math than probably any other category that we have. And math, students can start feeling real defeated in math if you're pushing them beyond what they're capable of doing. And sometimes, again, it's a developmental thing. I've seen this with students over and over again. They struggle with it, but one day it clicks. For some kids, it's actually when they're in their 20s or when they're in college, but one day it clicks. So the thing that you don't want to do is create a lot of math anxiety or make them feel like a failure, because then they close down. So the key is to really give them that foundation and understand the flexibility that comes into math. Now, if you come over back to our website, and I'm going to go up to the search bar, and I'm going to search math options, and I'm going to give you a little bit more information here. Did I search it? Yes, here it is, math options. So this just kind of goes over some of the other math technology courses that you want: technical math, business math, math for the trades, gives you some of those options there. And then we do have STEM-based options for the senior math credit for those who are not college for trajectory or kind of plan. So if your student is College 2 or life choice or modified, maybe they want to take a STEM course for that last senior year math. And it would be the senior year. The other 3 years need to be traditional math courses. But this could include things like computer applications or a coding, computer science, web development courses. And we've got some places that you might go to find that curriculum. So I guess the real thing that I want to say about math is don't let this be the thing that makes your child feel terrible about education and about learning. Everybody has different gifts, and there's ways to kind of work with them to help them learn what they need to know for where they're going. The next category is science. If they're college bound, we recommend that they have labs with their science. It's not required for graduation from HLA. It's recommended for those. There is also some notes here that you may notice. Math and science, they're related. They go together. And lots of times those two have to be coordinated, because a lot of science courses, there is a minimum amount of math that you need to be able to do that science curriculum. So for example, chemistry should not be taken before a student has Algebra 1, okay? Physics typically comes after or at the same time as Algebra 2. So just be mindful. If you're using a curriculum, usually it will tell you, right at the beginning, these are the prerequisites, here's what the student needs to know math-wise. The other thing to keep in mind is if they can't do the math or they struggle with the math, you can get creative. So for example, my son, he did struggle with math. So one of the things is instead of doing a complete physics course, we found a curriculum that we liked, and he did what we called it, we listed the course title as conceptual physics, okay? Or sometimes people, and if their student isn't ready for all the math with chemistry, maybe they call it introduction to chemistry. So there's ways to still familiarize themselves with those topics, but again, be outside the box a little bit as far as letting your kid kind of get the basic understanding. I mean, really, even if they're going to college, if they're not going into a STEM field, they're not going to have to take a lot of science and math in college unless it's related to their field of study. So, we want to expose them and get them through that. But keep in mind that those two are related. Most colleges really expect to see a biology. Once again, even if they're going to college, you don't have to use a curriculum. You can think out of the box. You can let the child dive in to an area that they're interested in. If a student takes biology in their freshman year of high school, they might take it if they go to college, their freshman year in college. That's like 4 years later. So you may not remember all the details, but understanding the scientific methodology, starting to be familiar with the terms, that is, and learning how to learn, those are the big things. If the student is not on the 4-year college plan, there's a lot more flexibility. You don't have to do a lab if you don't want, or that would be up to the student. And you can think again outside of the box. If your student is naturally interested in growing things, maybe your science is agriculture or horticulture or botany, maybe it is animal science. One that I see a lot for students who work a lot with horses, hippology, if they're really focused in on that. So you can think outside the box. Sometimes I'll have a parent call and they're all worried about the science credit. And as I talk to them about what their kid is doing, they're doing a lot of science. They're just not doing it through a curriculum. So sometimes we need to ask ourselves, and are there opportunities to do things that are hands-on, that fit with the student's learning style, that they can, enjoy and learn as they go. Others that are kind of fun, and I've seen this, our family's been very involved with Boy Scouts for many years, and I've seen a lot of folks use Boy Scout merit badge books to cobble together a high school science. Maybe they take 2 or 3 of the specific merit badge books and work through them with the student. Those are good. They're free, most of them. They're online. So even if you're not a Boy Scout, you can get access to those. And they have a lot of good resources. And you can cobble those together in order to create maybe an animal science or maybe an environmental science, however you want to do that. Physical science, I do want to mention that. Usually physical science should be taken before chemistry or physics because it's kind of an introduction to those. And that is one that we sometimes see as an 8th grade credit. And I'll talk about that here in a few minutes. If you have any comments or questions really to add about the math or the science, now might be a good time to list those. And let Lonnie dig in and help you with some of those. Now let's look at social studies next. All right, social studies is, we have 2 social studies credits plus 1 US history that are required. Social studies includes histories, geographies, philosophies, psychology, sociology, all of those fall under the category of social studies. So I've got sometimes this is confusing for people, so I just want to make sure that you're clear. 2 social studies courses in addition to the 1 required US history. So really a total of 3. If your student is college bound, a lot of colleges are going to expect that they have had maybe a world history or world geography. They might expect that they have a half a credit of US government or half a credit of economics. But you know, some look deeper into that than others. US history is a big one. We've actually had some colleges specifically looking to make sure the students have had that in high school. The cool thing about the social studies is there's a lot of different ways to take this. Again, just because you're in high school doesn't mean that a lot of this can't be earned. Those credits can't be earned with living books, with field trips. There's a lot of places that you can go. A lot of places that have field trips will actually have materials available for the student or recommended reading lists. So you can, again, be outside the box. The one thing that I want to stress is that the fun's not gone just because you're in high school. It can still be the joy of learning and finding and teaching them how to find information as they encounter things in the world. But, you know, if you are more comfortable with a curriculum, that's fine too. So either way that works best for you. Another thing that you might want to consider with social studies is, and I see a lot of people do, is kind of combine that with their, not combine it, there are some combinations, but let's say your English in 10th grade is focused on American literature. Well, then that would probably be a good year to do US history, because there's going to be that kind of, you're studying, you're reading, you're talking about the same stuff. So you might want to look at kind of that unit study approach, I guess you would say, to some of these, and see if you can be covering the same time period in your literature that you are in your social studies. I also notice a lot of people who the same year that they take the 1 credit of US history, they'll do their 0.5 credit of government. So that's fine too. And again, you can think outside of the box. If your kid is very interested in the history of Ireland, so we had St. Patrick's Day, you know, you can help them create 150 hours of study on the history of Ireland. And that's fine. That is fine. In fact, that's kind of fun sometimes when they get to do that, because, you know, the one thing that we find is the world, life, it all meshes together. I used to say when I would teach at the community college that we, you know, when we're in academia, sometimes we approach life as, this is your history class, this is your English, this is your science. But in life, they're all meshed together. History impacts science, technology, and science is going to impact the literature that's being written at the time, which is impacting what's going on in society at that time. So even though sometimes when we're checking off these boxes, they're in discrete categories: English, math, science, social studies, that doesn't mean that they have to be the way that you learn them. You can certainly blend them together as you go through there. Any questions on social studies you might want to pop down? I'll give you one example of something I did with my son. I'm not going to say he might be a little nerdy sometimes, but so he was really interested in flags, and evidently there's some international association of flag enthusiasts, and he joined that, and he was reading, and he got books, and I guess it's called vexillology, is the study of flags. And it was just, I looked one day and I'm like, you know, he spent tons of hours studying that. But the study of flags also took him into history. It also took him into governments. It took him into all these other topics as well. So I actually one year gave him a half a credit of vexillology, because really the transcript, one of the things we want a high school transcript to do is to tell the story of who that student is. And that's who he is. So, so I did add that one year. Let's see, other required courses. I've talked about US history. Physical education, 1 credit. 1 credit is roughly 150 hours. Physical education, if your kid does a sport, that can count as the PE. If they're a dancer, that can count as the PE. Basically anything that raises the heart rate You know, I have people who it will actually say in Apple Core under resources, they walk the dog and that's their PE, or they bale hay and that's their PE. So just, you know, just kind of know that that's one, it can be done in all sorts of different ways. You can earn the whole credit the same year, or you can learn half a credit over a couple of years. You can split it out how you want. The next other required course is health, a half a credit of health. Health basically covers the systems of the body, nutrition, human development, mental health, alcohol, tobacco, etc. But this is one of those, you can get a curriculum and find a high school half a credit, one semester health curriculum, or you can create your own too. I see a lot of families who maybe they have certain medical issues in their family or with their student, and you know, they're seeing doctors all the time. They're always concerned with maybe what they're eating or certain health issues. So they're getting it, they're just getting it a different way that's actually more real life. So there's flexibility there with the health as well. Personal finance. Personal finance is not economics. This is different. This is more on an individual level, helping your student understand banking and interest rates and compound interest and how to manage their money. So half a credit for that. Now, one thing I will say about those two, and this is just my recommendation, parents are free to do this however they want, but I always recommend that you save the health and the personal finance for the senior year. And the reason I do that is because those mean a lot more to the student when they're 18, 19 than they do when the student's 14 or 13 or, you know, 15. And it's kind of like before we launch them out into the world, into their jobs or into their life, those are some of the last things I like to review is what are our family values relative to health and health related topics and relative to how we spend our money and being responsible stewards of what God has given us. So, you know, that's up to you. Probably in reality, you know, that was just part of our lifestyle all through high school. But I wanted that time, the senior year, to sit down and say, okay, let's just talk through this again before I gave the credit. There's also a lot of really cool documentaries out there that I've seen people use for health as well. So things to keep in mind. Now, the elective category. Move over here. If the student is going to college, a lot of colleges like to see at least 2 credits of a foreign language, the same foreign language. And most colleges, ASL, they're fine with that if you want to use that. A lot of colleges like to see 1 performing arts or fine arts credit, and then maybe a computer credit. And then besides that, excuse me, the electives should again tell the story of the student. If they're passionate about science, so let's say they took like science every year, so 3 credits were required for graduation, but they did 4 credits, one of those can count towards this elective requirement down here. And that's just going to tell the story of this student was passionate about science. And that's what we really like, is the transcript to tell the story of the student. That's why we just have 1 diploma, because the transcript tells the story. The other thing to keep in mind when you're thinking of electives or additional core courses counting towards the electives is that our transcripts do not list categories. So no college or no employer is going to say, oh yeah, you took physics, but it was an elective physics. You know, they're just going to see the course title. They're not going to see what category of credit it's satisfied. So, you know, you don't have to worry as much about that. Let's see, other electives. You move over here. The passions of the students you want to be aware of. One of the things, sometimes I'll see parents and they're just like, I don't know what to give them credit for electives, or we're behind. And so some of the questions I'll ask are, what does the student do for fun? What else is going on in their lives? And if they're playing guitar at church, you know, let's give them a credit for guitar. They can do that. They can earn credit for piano lessons, music, choir. If they're maybe learning about business, an intro to business, They can do additional core courses, just, mechanics, anything like that, intro to plumbing. Maybe they're doing an internship. Maybe they're even doing a job and we're going to call it work experience. There is lots and lots of flexibility with the elective. So don't be intimidated by that. And if you have some questions about how to, to list that, do contact one of the counselors, because we can help you with that stuff as you're looking. Now, the other thing I want to mention, earlier I said we recommend no more than 8 to 9 credits, but sometimes there are reasons you need to or you want to list more, and that's fine. But the other thing that I noticed is that some places will say, look at a transcript and say, okay, this is what you did at school. What else did you do? But if every single thing you did is on the academic transcript, you don't have anything else to tell them. So I do recommend that you get, we have a portfolio in Apple Core, and I'll go there in a couple minutes. And I do recommend that you don't put everything in the academic transcript. Okay, so some things they may have done, but you don't need to maybe give them a full credit of work experience every year. Maybe you give it once, and then after that you put it in the portfolio. And sometimes those are really helpful. I know even for college admissions, a lot of places will ask specifically, what did you do outside of school? And so it's good to have that portfolio and that information that you can pull from. Other things, if the student is going to or planning to go to a competitive four-year college, they may have taken an ACT prep class, and you can technically give a 0.5 credit, a half credit for ACT prep, but I don't recommend it because, or study skills. Again, if they're going to or applying to competitive college programs, you probably don't want to list those on the academic transcript, because you want to, keep it where it just shines on where their gifts and talents were and who they are. And those are the ACT prep or the study skills or something maybe that a lot of people just do on their own. So just be aware of that. So these sheets are going to help you a lot. Like I said, I encourage you go in to our website, and that you pull these, you start penciling things in. Don't be intimidated by the different planning sheets for the different paths the students are on. You can always change that. I do recommend that you kind of start them out maybe on a College 4, because it's easier to drop back than it is to catch back up if they change their mind later. And I have seen some of that, but really it's just checking off these boxes. And you can still have the freedom and flexibility to do that the way that you want. We have people who, who do very rigorous curriculum, who do well in life afterwards. And that's who their student, some kids just like that. They want to have school and sit and do that. And that's good. That's where you use that. That's who that student is. But if your student is frustrated with that, you can still be outside the box. You can still be hands-on. You can still figure out who they are and how they learn and adapt their education to that. One of the most important things that we do in high school is we teach them how to learn. We teach them how to gather information and think about it themselves. So important things there if you're kind of intimidated a little bit by that. All right, the next thing I want to do is go over here. And so this is a fake Apple Core account. And let me see. So I'm going to click on over to Apple Core. And this is where your students would be listed. And across from each student is the view report grades. There's the portfolio. And then there is the transcript review or the high school review or the graduation review. We do those for all juniors and all seniors. We do them for new students, new high school students that are coming in. And then we also do them upon request for 9th and 10th graders. So if you want to get a detailed kind of report of where they stand, you want a counselor to look through everything, and they're in 9th and 10th grade, you can request that. We're going to do it for juniors and seniors. We just have that set up to do that automatically. view report grades. Let me click on that real quick. You add courses. If the course that you want to add is not in here, so let's say I want to, like I'd mentioned for social studies, I had a vexillology course. Guess what? That's not in there. So you can click on can't find course, and then, now see, now I put myself on the spot because I don't know how vexillology. I probably spelled that wrong. And so you put it there, you put in, you know, your resources. And again, it can be, you know, join an association, read these books, you know, created flags and turned them in for contests, etc. And you click add the course. Then, where'd you go? You can edit the semester and you can add the credit in the grades. You know, again, each semester, if it's a full credit course that lasts a year, it's usually 0.5 fall, 0.5 spring. If it's a half credit course that lasts a year, it's usually 0.25 fall, 0.25 spring, or you can do a block schedule and do the whole thing. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention here, or a couple things, is the portfolio. You can click on that. There's nothing here for Margie, but this is a good place where you can keep track of awards, extracurricular activities, special things your student did. And I only have one child, and I know some people have like tons of children. And I thought there were things my son did that I was like, oh, I'll always remember that. And then when we started like on his college stuff, unless I had put it in the portfolio, I was like, now, when was that? Was that 2 years ago? How long was that? How much did you volunteer? Etc. So it's really good just to keep that going. And you can request to have that sent with a transcript to a job, employer, a trade program, a college, etc. Now, the other thing I want to mention is the graduation or the high school review. It's here in Apple Core. You can click on it, and I can go in and see that, you know, see who did the last complete one, and the last one was done in September of 2020. And you can click on counselor comments and get over and see everything that the counselor wrote, all their notes. If they had any suggestions or things that you needed to be aware of, it's listed there. That was a point in time. That was as of that September date last year. So maybe you changed things since then, okay? Maybe they didn't finish what you thought they were gonna do and you changed things and now you don't know how many credits they need. Well, you can go into Apple Core, click on the graduation or high school review, and you can come down to this little button here that says current credit summary. And this is based on what is in Apple Core. It hasn't been reviewed by anyone yet, but you can click on it and you can see that 4 English are required, of that 3.5 are done. It looks like a half is in progress, so they'll have that by the end of the year. So you can get an idea of where your student stands if you're trying to do planning for the next year. So something to be aware of, information for you in Apple Core that you can get anytime you want. I mean, you can even put in things and change them and go see how that impacts everything. The other thing I want to show you in Apple Core is, actually, it's going to be a little bit different here. Let me see, log in as a family. So as a family, you're going to log into your My HLA, and then there's a button or there's a line here that says Request Manager. And in this, you can create a request. There's a drop-down menu. So if, like after today, you're like, oh man, I really have some specific questions about my 10th grader, you can click Counselor 10th Grade, and you can tell the counselor, I need help with math curriculum and sequence or something like that. Please call me at, and you put your phone number, number, or maybe you leave your email, and then you click Send Request. Okay, and that has been sent, and a counselor will see that and they will reach out to you. So this is pretty cool that you can come in here. If you need to talk to a specific counselor or a specific grade counselor, you can request that. If your student may need help or accommodations on the ACT, that's in the drop-down menu. When you get ready to graduate, we do that through here as well. If your student is interested in NCAA sports in college, we have a counselor who specializes in that. You can click on that and request information or kind of tell her what the issue is, and then she will reach out to you on those. So we're reaching out to you with webinars, with transcript reviews, but you can reach out to us as well, and that's one way. Another way is live chat. That is, if you just log into the regular HLA website, it usually pops up where you can actually talk to somebody who's available on live chat and ask them basic questions as well. So there's lots of ways to contact us. We are here for you. We are, we can talk on the phone. A lot of counselors will do Zoom counseling. And then if you just need to email or live chat a quick question, you can, or get a quick question answered, you can do that as well. So those are options also. So let me stop my screen share, come back up here. One of the other things, I guess, just kind of last things that I wanted to mention is, and I probably said this a lot just because I have so many parents who are so frightened of high school. High school is nothing to be afraid of, and you're not in it alone when you're with Home Life Academy, because we really are here to partner with you. We are here to give you recommendations, to help you talk through it. And sometimes as a parent, sometimes they're just like, oh, I just need to have a sounding board, and that's fine. That's fine. That's what we do. That's what we're here for. We also have so many tools available to you on our website and through the request manager and through our webinars. So there's a lot of ways to get the information that you need and the help that you need. And just a kind of I guess a bonus, because of when we're doing this webinar, is we are also, this is the time when our, I guess, kind of the season of conventions and fairs for homeschoolers is going on. And we do have a 20% discount this weekend. And if your student is a rising senior, you probably want to pay the senior fees at the same time that you register for next year, so that, the 20% will be applied to that as well. So if you have any questions there, just let us know. All right. It's a lot of information to cover. I know I've kind of, depending on the path, you're doing different things. My key, or the key things I wanted to do, is give you a good overview of high school and an idea of where to get the information that you need. So let me see if there are any questions that Lonnie had left for me. Where'd they go? Oh, there it is. I'll move stuff around. All right. All right, so we got a few here, so let me go through some of these. I have one, my son has one native language additional to English and one more foreign language that he speaks and reads very fluently. How can I use that for transcript on his benefit? So yeah, you could list those. I mean, if he's kind of continues reviewing those, you can list those for a foreign language. If he's continuing, sometimes it's like, if you speak it, maybe you're moving into more reading more literature in that foreign language, and that is fine. You can also put it in the portfolio, and that's fine too. So those are really good things to put, especially, when you either start applying for jobs or applying to college, to say, to make sure you kind of highlight that my child is conversant in these different languages. So it can go on the transcript. It can go in the portfolio. All right. What types of things should be listed in the portfolio is the next question. And that, it can be so many different things. If your student does volunteer work, you can list the volunteer work and the hours that the student did, so that you remember that. If your student has been in any leadership roles, you will want to list that. If the student is in any club. So my student was in Boy Scouts. So, I've listed his ranks in Boy Scouts, and, when he was patrol leader, and different community service that he did, other community activities or church activities. And again, if the student has gotten any awards, you can list that as well. So again, it's to tell the story of the student. So what do they do in addition to school? Where do they spend their time? Where do their passions shine? So, so that's something to kind of keep in mind for putting into the portfolio. Next question. Some universities require 3 or more years of foreign language. The student currently has 2 years in one language and, whoops, it's moving, and 1 year in another. Will this be considered the same as a 3+? Usually when a college says they want 3 years of a foreign language, usually they want it in the same language. But lots of times they're looking at the entire package, so they may not just look at that and make a decision, you know, whether they're gonna accept them or not. But usually when they say they want three or more years, it's usually in the same language. So I'm glad someone found this very helpful. Thank you. And the discount code, oh man, let's see, I wrote that down. It is FAIR, F-A-I-R 2021, all capitals. And that's the code you need for the 20%. Thanks for asking. And let's see. Some colleges, if you're going to a college, they will let you test out sometimes a certain foreign language, like maybe you test out so you don't have to take as many. So that's something to, you know, to be aware of. I'm just gonna mention one thing that I did with my son that was maybe a mistake. So he dual enrolled German. So he did 3 semesters of German, and for the life of me, I'm not really sure why we didn't go ahead and do that 4th semester. But he did 3 semesters dual enrollment while he was in college, or while he was in high school, I'm sorry. Then he went to college, and where he went to college doesn't offer German, but it does require for his major that he have 4 college classes of a foreign language. So he's going to have to find a different way to get that 4th credit or that 4th class of German. So I kind of wish, you know, if he was going to do the dual enrollment, maybe have done something that I was sure that more colleges were going to offer. I thought he would go somewhere with a German program, but he didn't. 8th grade courses that you're eligible to take. Yep. And I meant to show you that. So let me go back over here real quick. We are in the process of updating our website. So some things that I could find real quickly before are taking a little bit longer for me to find. So excuse me if I have to jump around a little on this one. Okay, I think I may have found it. So preparing for high school advanced track. So the question is what classes are middle schoolers or 8th graders allowed to take for early high school credit? So certain ones are not eligible. So you shouldn't do a high school English for credit. Now you can do it. My son did a high school English program in 8th grade. I just didn't give him high school credit for it because you're going to want it every year in high school. So that's the thing, you know, you can do things whenever at any level you want, if that's, you know, if your student is at that level, you just don't have to list it for credit when they're not in high school. So you don't want to do the English. You're not going to get early credit for pre-algebra or consumer math, the US history, government, health, electives, none of that's early credit. What you do want to look at, whoops, let me get over here for early credit. Where's my list? Okay, so for early credit, you might do Algebra 1, you might do a world history or a world geography, maybe a foreign language or a biology or, you know, some sort of science that is high school level. The key is the curriculum or what you're using does need to be high school level. We recommend no more than 3 early credits in 8th grade, no more than 3. And the other thing is we recommend that the credits be limited to 8th grade. So don't be, you know, we don't recommend typically that you list early credits in 7th or 6th grade. And the other thing is just be mindful, some colleges have different opinions of those early credits. The idea is, for example, if you take Algebra 1 in 8th grade, the idea is not that you're going to be done with math early and not do it your 12th grade year. The idea is that you are on a different track for math courses and you still are going to take it all 4 years of high school. So just kind of keep that in mind, and you might want to even check with colleges to make sure what they you know, what they want to see. You can list those for credit in Apple Core. When you click on the button, there's or click on Add Course, there's a button over in the far left-hand corner that says for credit. And you can do that. And again, you know, I'd mentioned this, some colleges aren't as, I don't know, crazy about early credits as others. So just, you might want to check with the college of interest. And again, you know, usually the idea is that these are subjects that your child maybe is gifted in, and they're going to go further in those subjects. Let me see. There's one other guidelines. Oh, things to consider. Just one thing I wanted to mention relative to early credits is like I said, I mean, if your student's ready for really advanced literature and writing, they can do it. You don't have to call it for high school credit. That's fine. We're very flexible. You know, we know that not every student goes at the same pace. So, you know, if you fall outside these guidelines somehow and you want to talk to a counselor, I do, you know, encourage you to kind of reach out so we can kind of talk through this. But one thing is, most kids are going to be fine getting their credits, even if they don't do early credits in 8th grade. I think that sometimes when we're nervous about high school, we're kind of like, oh, so we should start earning credits so that, you know, it's not so hard or we don't get behind. And the reality is that, you know, we may feel like that when we're starting out, but then later on you realize it's not that hard to get all the credits that you need for high school. I mean, with HLA, it's 22. So, I mean, you know, so maybe 5, 6 credits a year is going to get you there. Get you probably a couple over, but so maybe some 5, some 6. A lot of students, again, as I mentioned, they may be doing higher number of credits their freshman and sophomore year. So usually it's not really difficult for most students to get the credits that they need. If you're having trouble, maybe you need some help talking through the electives, because lots of times, again, the students are doing those. Let's see, have a couple more questions. Benefits to dual enrollment that you see. Are the costs different for credit hours concerned? Okay, so these are good questions, Michelle. You kind of have to decide, I guess, first what is right for you and your family and your student. I liked the dual enrollment experience because it put my son on a campus where he was accountable to somebody else, but he was just doing that one course each semester. So, and he was still kind of under the wing of being at home. So it was a way to let him dip his toe into the college experience without being sent, you know, there in a full load and not living at home. So I think it was a good experience that way. But I do think you do have to be very careful. Some of the material that is covered, depending on which class you're taking, can be very, what some of us might consider inappropriate. When I taught psychology for like I said, 17 years, but I also sometimes helped out in the tutoring center. And occasionally what they were reading in some of the English courses and being asked to write about could make you blush. So, you know, you do want to consider the maturity of your student. You want to, you know, kind of think about, do you want to let them kind of start learning about, you know, other things while they're still at home? Lots of times it does teach them time management. There is a cool website called Rate My Professor, and I highly encourage that you use that to learn about the professors. And you know, you can usually tell if somebody's just sour apples, because you can tell in the comments, and it'll give you some ideas. Are they hard? You know, how hard are they? Are they fair? You know, do they come to class prepared? That type of stuff. So you don't want to put your student in dual enrollment and just like let it go. Almost at the end of every semester, I have parents who are surprised that their student failed their dual enrollment course. And maybe it's because the student didn't understand the online assignments or didn't understand all the different things that were involved. One time I had a student who didn't realize that you had to officially go and drop the course. So they just stopped going and thought they had dropped it, but instead they were still on the roll. So they were given an F because, you know, that's out there, you know, on the college records. Let's see. Is it better to not use the same things in the portfolio as mentioned in the electives? Archery 4 years, I think it's fine for some of those to list it. I mean, in, maybe archery for a PE and then list it in the portfolio, because maybe if the kid does that a lot, maybe they're winning awards or competing or something like that. So, so that's something that you can, kind of play with there. As far as the honors tag is for core courses only. So it's not going to be for PE. It's not going to be for elective type courses. And usually the honors tag is for something that is at the college level. So if you're using a curriculum, lots of times the curriculum will tell you if it's honors level curriculum. If it's not, maybe you added to it. So you did all of that and then you supplemented. The student did additional reading and additional reports, and now you're going to call it honors. I kind of try to keep, or you want to match the honors if it's a student going to college of where they land with their ACT. So for example, I mentioned my son was not great in math, so no way was I going to put an honors on a math course. But he was exceptional in English, so I would feel comfortable, and his ACT reflected that. So that's something just to be aware of. Discount code, it is FAIR, FAIR, all caps 2021. And what about scholarships for college? We do have some scholarships that HLA gives out, and those are on our website. If you go under academics and high school, it's in the blue box to the right. The other thing is some of the colleges you can tell, all right, so they'll have it on their website. So for example, with my son, I knew his ACT score and his GPA. From those two things, I could go to a college website and they would basically say, if you have this ACT score and this GPA, here's how much money in scholarship that you can get. And then, depending on the state you're in, we're in Tennessee, so we had the Hope, and I knew that he had over 21 on his ACT, so he's going to qualify for the Hope. And then aside from that, there's some books out there. You can look on Amazon that come out every year and list a lot of resources for scholarships. Sometimes it's just a lot of digging. Sometimes employers have it. Sometimes groups have it. So, my son, I mentioned, was very active in Boy Scouts, and he got a Boy Scout scholarship for college. So sometimes 4-H or volunteerism, those are some of the ones that you might want to search out, and we can give you some more information on that if you're interested. All right, and AP credit. Okay, Laura, so AP credit, lots of times, let me jump back over to the website. I think that'll be easier to show it. All right, so classes like honors, CLEP, AP, we refer to those as special courses. So if you search special courses in the search bar, then I'm going to click on that. And you can see here that it tells you about the dual enrollment. You can click and see exactly how all that works, what is needed. AP courses and exams. So AP is trademarked by the College Board. So so if you're with Home Life Academy, you're not going to typically list a course as AP English, but you can make arrangements lots of times through a local high school and sign up and take an AP test and have the AP score, and you can send it to us and ask that we include it with the transcripts, and we can add a tag that says, that you took the AP test. So we don't officially, that trademark, it's trademarked, so we don't list those courses, but there are, different ways around that. So you can still send the scores to the college, because really that's a big thing. Some people like it because it can help their weighted GPA. So you could even list it as honors if you wanted, or, and then, like I said, send us the stuff. When you request a transcript, you make a note that you would like us to send the AP documents as well, or you can send it directly to the college, and that's fine. So let's see, are these questions and answers going to be saved somewhere? My understanding is not. So maybe take us some screenshots before we get off if you can, or take a picture. And then we got someone whose oldest son is beginning in high school. And yeah, it's an exciting time because they really are, you know, they're becoming adults. And, you know, as much as I love all the time that I had with my son when he was little, and we were chasing waterfalls and hiking and playing outdoors and having our own little adventures, you know, he's kind of an interesting fella now that he's grown up too. And I enjoy talking to him. And so sometimes that's, you know, that's a transition that we have when we get through high school. You know, this is just personal. Everybody has their own philosophy of parenthood, but, you know, don't be afraid to let them fail in high school, because you'd rather have them fail at something. And what I mean is, like, you know, if they're doing a paper for tutorial and they're decide to go out with their friends instead, and then they're trying to do it at 3 o'clock in the morning and they fall asleep, that's a natural consequence. So, you know, sometimes I had to let my son and experience the natural consequences of procrastination. And there were a couple times when we went to our co-op or tutorial, and he wasn't the only teenager who had been up all night doing the assignments that they had a week to do. So, you know, those are just things, that's part of the growing up, that's part of the excitement of it. And, you know, kind of watching them become the person that God created them to be. All right. And I think that's all that we've got for right now. So let me stop the share, come back to see your faces and just say thank you. I'm, you know, I always enjoy talking to you all. I think this is an exciting time. I think just always remember, this is your journey. It doesn't have to look like your homeschool friend across the street or anybody else. God gave you your child, and they're different from everybody else. Okay, and they've been entrusted to you. So we're here to help you, and y'all have a good afternoon. Thanks. Bye-bye.